One, two, three, four. Painted gently in the earth, a joyful living scene, brushed with ever-changing mood, ever-flowing green, peaceful, bright, pure as light, windy summer hair, flowing gold, a glowing sight. I see her running there. Morning dove, hawk above, verse the joyful yield. Heaven's here, feel no fear, down in Molly's field. Molly's field, Molly's field, Molly's field. Molly's field, down in Molly's field, out in Molly's field, oh, out in Molly, 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 out in Molly's field, oh, Molly, Molly. Molly, down in Molly's field. Hi, my name's Chuck Suchy, and Molly's field is right outside of the farm home that I live in with my wife Linda and south of Mandan, North Dakota. It's the farm that I grew up on and continue to grow up on. And Molly's field is a hay field, and I found myself having coffee one morning doing a very important job, and that is the job of the poet and the artist, and that is to see the beauty in the world right where we are. And so I was watching the grass blow in the wind, and all of a sudden I saw this little flicker of yellow out there, and I wasn't quite sure what it was, thinking at first a bird or a butterfly or a leaf, and then realizing it was the tip of Molly's tail, our Great Pyrenees dog. And that Molly was out there being Molly for all Molly could be, and not knowing any borders or boundaries to hinder that experience. And the wonder of that moment inspired me to want to remember it. And so I reached for my pen and started scribbling down what was going through my mind and trying to capture the happiness musically of Molly's tail. How would a happy dog's tail sound if it was music? That's a question. It's a question I ask students when I come into their classrooms and we talk about poetry and such things as how would a happy dog's tail sound? And so I'm really excited to be part of Poetry Out Loud, and because it number one, it gets people like myself who come from probably not necessarily academic realms, but yet we write what we feel, which means we have to feel and be aware of what we feel. And we also do have to learn some academics such as metaphor and simile and which are pure as light, a line from Molly's field. Peaceful, bright, pure as light. So I'm really excited because poetry and songwriting have been such a big part of my life and continue to be. The farm that I mentioned that I grew up on for a long time seemed to me to be a prison. I was the youngest in the family and the only boy, and my older sisters had long left by the time I started gaining some sense of myself in the world. and on the farm, and it just seemed like I felt like life was maybe passing me by. And I think a lot of young people feel that, no matter where they are. And so I really enjoy sharing that experience in the classroom in regard to my songwriting, especially because what I didn't realize at the time was on that farm, it was not a prison. It was a place that offered me a chance to hear my inner voice, that voice of truth that resides in all of us, in every human heart, and that speaks, and it needs some solitude in order to be heard. It needs silence. And so I didn't even realize I had this wonderful gift of silence and solitude. And now I treasure that more than ever. And in my presentations to students, I try to encourage them to every day find some place of solitude and dismiss the clamor and the noise and others trying to tell us who they want us to be. Find a place of solitude and silence and just be with yourself. I think that is something not many people are even comfortable with anymore. We're so used to outside clamor and noise. So the idea of silence is a huge part of full life, I think, because it helps us to learn who we are. The writer David Brooks writes of the poetry, and he says, and I quote, "The poet has a special responsibility as society's seer, one who captures the eternity in the present and who sings to others of their own unique voice within." And that alone, as a mission statement for me, if I can accomplish even one or two of those things to help somebody, a young person, realize that they have a voice, that they can see other things that maybe others don't see or don't take the time to, and that's worthy of that. And to write it into poetry or a journal, or sometimes I find myself just scribbling ideas down on the backs of receipts that I might have in my coveralls pocket. And my wife, Linda, has learned to, if she's the one that happens to do the laundry, I do laundry as well. But if she's the one's doing laundry, she's learned to go through my pockets and turned over those receipts and see if there are some obscure lyrics or song ideas written on the backs of those pieces of paper. And then later, hopefully, they get transferred to a journal. And because I also encourage journaling in my presentations, because I think even apart from just writing poetry or reading poetry and making others' poets' work our own by means of learning it by heart, that in itself is a way of journaling, because it cements in our brains somehow, in our subconscious, so that we can go back and kind of see who we thought we were at one time, and or who we thought we were going to be. So keeping a journal is, I think it's a wonderful thing, and that in itself helps art live and be part of life. I get such a kick out of going in the classrooms and sharing. I usually open up with Molly's Field, because the universal theme of a dog running through the grass just sort of opens up young people's, maybe opens up the doors to possibility for them. And inevitably, I'll hear stories about their own pets and cats and dogs and horses, and then that allows us to go beyond that. And as Brooks writes, It allows us to explore the eternity in the present. And I think just a happy dog's tail wagging in the wind is a pretty eternal aspect of beauty in life. So I hope I can come to your classroom. I'd love to just explore all the possibilities. I do talk about presentation, some of the mechanics of how to present a poem, how to learn it by heart, not just memorize it, to make your own personality blend with the words of the original writer, and how to find a poem, one that resonates with you. I have an old friend who's not living anymore, but he had a wonderful dog, Jake. And I said, Ralph, how did you ever luck out finding Jake? And he said, well, I went to the shelter, and they said, you can't pick a dog, but we'll let a dog pick you. He said he walked past Jake's cage, and Jake got a little excited, so they let Jake out, and he went over and smelled Ralph's pant legs, and then he rolled on his back, put his paws out, and the folks at the shelter said, he's yours. And that's kind of how I see finding a poem. It's being open to the possibility that's somebody else's happiness, somebody else's joy or pain, somebody else's broken heart resonates with you. And it's a comfort for me to find out that somebody else, maybe centuries ago, had a broken heart, that I'm not the only one flopping around crying and thinking I have insurmountable pain. No, others have too. And poetry and art help us to realize this. And so, especially with young people, I think this is very important to find out that they are not isolated. They are not alone. And we are all together, and art helps cement that bond. It opens us at the same time as bringing us together. Thank you. Painted gently in the earth, a joyful living scene, brushed with ever-changing